Well, this comes after social media blew up this weekend over comments billionaire Sam Zell, he made about the 1%, quote, "The problem is that the world and this country should not talk about envy of the 1%. It should talk about emulating the 1%. The 1% work harder. The 1% are much bigger factors in all forms of our society." Sandra, I know you're a big fan of Sam Zell.
I am. Well, he's a Chicago guy, and this is a guy who's worked really hard his entire life to get to where he's. And guess what? He's finally, coming back on all the targets on the 1%, saying, "Hey, a lot of the 1% worked hard to get to where they are. It didn't happen by luck. This didn't land in their lap. Unfortunately, it's being perceived as those who aren't in the 1% don't work hard, Charles." Sure. But hey, guess what? He's shooting back. He's firing back, as you were saying. It's finally good to just hear these guys.
Well, Tom Perkins has been in the news for about 2 or 3 weeks, and I absolutely love the fact that he's going, fighting back now. What you hear the mainstream media say is the 1%. There's some paranoid people. Why are they freaking out? Well, I'll tell you. To your point, these guys have worked hard. They all have coattails, and they are stories that used to inspire us.
And that's what he's saying. He's saying we can learn from the rich. And he specifically said that we're victims of intolerance, referencing the 1%, that it's politically convenient right now to blame the 1% for the country's problems. And I think those are two big themes that he's hitting on.
We have Congressman Blackburn also here. Income inequality is the battle cry of the left. They've got the platform, they've got the soapbox, and they are pushing hard on this. And I think they've been successful with respect to Main Street. A lot of people are starting to feel like, maybe the 1% have it all, and the tables are tilted in a way where we can never succeed.
You know what is happening is people have always appreciated that in our country, the status of your birth does not determine the outcome of your life. And they like that. They believe in the American dream. And they're looking.
I do want to jump in, though, because I don't disagree with you, but do you think recently that's beginning to change?
I do think that what people are doing is looking back at what has happened over the last few years. And when you talk about income inequality, what so many people will say to me, I don't want to talk about minimum wage, I want to talk about maximum wage. How do I earn the most that I can possibly earn? And they're also beginning to look at what has happened since President Obama took office. Wage stagnation. And their buying power is going down. Their wages are going down. The other day, I was out in my district in some of my counties, and somebody said, tell me how they've changed looking at the consumer price index and saying whether or not we have inflation. I feel inflation in my life, but I listen to TV and they're telling me, oh, there really is not a lot of inflation, but that's not right. And so, see, people are figuring this out, and I think that it's why they're not trusting what they're hearing coming out of Washington.
Politics of fear, envy, and hate are despicable, and ultimately they do backfire on whoever is trying to use that. Now, Congressman Blackburn, you made headlines, big headlines overnight, as a matter of fact. You had this big climate debate with Bill Nye, the science guy. We want to roll it.
You don't need a PhD in climate science to understand what's going on. That we have overwhelming evidence that climate is changing, that you cannot tie any one event to that is not the same as doubt about the whole thing.
What we have to look at is the fact that you don't make good laws, sustainable laws, when you're making them on hypotheses or theories or unproven science.
Would you say that the Antarctic has less ice than it used to?
Congressman, this is all leading up to attacks. We know that. And I guess you're chuckling because the photo he showed wasn't the Antarctic anyway, right? But listen, we know that this is all building up for a gigantic money grab, some sort of gigantic tax on everyone, a tax on businesses, household energy bills going higher. And how will they sell that as fixing the problem if we all agreed it was man-made?
If you agreed everything he said was right, was true, which it is not, but just say that it did, then how do you address this if you've got other nations, China, India, that are not going to participate and do what the U.S., what the climate elite would like to see done? So the problem's not going to get better. You know, he was attacking coal-fired electric production plants yesterday. Well, there are 1,200 on the books for Germany and Poland and other countries, so how do you address it? The point is this. When you look at the issue, you're not going to fix it by passing laws and rules and regulations in Washington. Even Gina McCarthy, who heads the EPA, has said if she achieved all of her 26 goals, it wouldn't have an impact on climate globally because the other countries are not going to do likewise.
And to your point, last year the fastest growing source of energy was coal around the world.
That's right. And see, Congress has taken action. It's not the action they wanted. We voted against cap and trade. Yeah. We voted against Boiler Max. Sure. So now they're trying to do it through the rules and regulations, just like they did with Obamacare.
All right, I got another one for you. A major, major blow to the United Auto Workers, employees at the Volkswagen plant in Chattanooga. They voted against unionizing. The UAW had lobbied really hard. They even had the support of Volkswagen executives, and yet they still lost. First, I want to go to Rich Edson in Chattanooga this morning with more. Rich, this thing isn't over yet, huh?
Charles, this is far from over. First off, when you look at just this specific vote, this is something that could be challenged with the NLRB because some of the statements that politicians had made before this, the NLRB, push for a second vote. We've contacted them. They've not gotten back to us. But just on this broader issue, the UAW says for a year that they won't campaign to organize this particular Chattanooga VW plant, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to continue efforts in some of the other plants, the Nissan plant in the state, a Mercedes-Benz plant. So that continues. Their membership has fallen from a high of 1.5 million in 1979 to about 400,000 now. So those efforts absolutely continue. This way to try to get unionization to these southern plants from foreign auto workers continues. And just because they're not campaigning for the next year in this Chattanooga plant doesn't mean this is over, Charles.
All right, Rich, thanks a lot. Okay, Congressman Blackburn, this is your state. What's your take on this one?
I think that the UAW had access to the workers at the plant. They opened it up. They made their campaign. It was a 3-day vote. 89% of the workers participated in the vote, and the UAW lost. I think people like their jobs. They like having VW there, but they don't want VW to come in and change the work culture they enjoy.
Well, about a week ago, this felt like a toss-up, or maybe that the UAW won, in part because the Volkswagen executives were so open to it. They were openly saying, hey, we like this idea. It works in Europe, and it would be great for us. And what changed it? What tilted this in favor of the no vote?
I do believe it was that people at that plant want to be incented when they do well, and they don't trust to have a union to go in and lobby for them on getting their contracts. They want to be able to handle that individually. It's just like people don't trust government. They don't like big bureaucracies. We're moving to a time in our society when people want to be able to make those decisions, have that control themselves.
They made that decision right there. Stay right there, Congressman, because the new Lego movie comes in first place yet again at the box office. Congressman Blackburn is still here 5 years and $800 billion later. The stimulus doesn't appear to be very stimulating. At least the president thought, though, that was funny. Roll it.
Shovel-ready was not as shovel-ready as we expected.
No, it wasn't. And just take a look at the participation rate. It was 65.8 back in February of 2009. It's nearly 3 percentage points lower now. Congressman, I called the stimulus an unmitigated disaster. You think I'm being too harsh?
Not at all. It is all taxpayer dollars, not government money. It comes out of our pockets into the Treasury, and then the president has invested in a lot of unproven theories. He has put money that didn't work out, and it's not a laughing matter because, as we mentioned earlier, wage stagnation, jobs still are not abundant, the economy is still struggling.
Dude, I get the sense that they know what they're going to do with this money, even though they always pitch us something different. This was pitched as a shovel-ready, gigantic construction project. In fact, one of the statements the president made is that 400,000 men and women are going to go to work rebuilding crumbling roads and bridges and repairing faulty dams and levees. Well, for 2013, we had a rating, the American Society of Civil Engineers. They've rated those things. Roads got a D. Dams got a D. Levees got a D minus. The best score there were the bridges with a C+. So it's disingenuous, but it feels like it's designed to be disingenuous, and that's really a very despicable point.
Well, and I think that's why people have lost trust in this administration. They say one thing and they do another. And as your mother told you, actions speak louder than words. And the actions that this administration have taken have not been something that has yielded more jobs growth and greater income for the American worker.
So the president now is going to pitch more of these sort of deals. Some, I guess, he'll include Congress, some he won't, including a $1 billion climate resilience fund.
Which is ridiculous, you know. You can't go out and do a climate study and say this is going to fix the weather events. You have an Endangered Species Act that is harming the situation in California. If you want to do something about that, you know, let the water start going into that area. There are things the president could do. And to throw $1 billion, I think that's insulting to the farmers in that area.
We got a minute to go. I want to ask about Congress in general. It feels like you guys are playing it safe, you know, not really trying to get out there on things that maybe you believe in your heart and soul, but you think maybe you're losing public relations things. And of course, you know, I'm referring to the debt ceiling, the quick passage of the budget. It just feels like maybe taking a safe route. And that's starting to anger a whole lot of your pure constituents. What would you say to them?
I think that my constituents like the fact that I'm still fighting to reduce spending, and we're going to be on that, cutting 1% of everything the federal government spends, a penny on a dollar. And as we move into the summer with the appropriations process, that is where we're going to be able to disallow.
We're going to see a little fight, a little pushback.
See a little
pushback, a little spine.
Yeah,
a little spine.
Spiciness,
All right.
yes.
We're looking for it. Thanks a lot.
Good.